right. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Perfect. All right. And do it one time. Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Mauricio Ortega, principal at Goleta Valley Junior High School, and welcome to our first webinar of the school year. Before we begin, we do have a small announcement. Bienvenidas a todas las familias y estamos aquí para platicar sobre nuestro plan para el aprendizaje de distancia. Pero sí tenemos un mensaje de la señora Quiñones que va a dar un mensaje sobre interpretación. We'll do a little message now about interpretation. Ms. Quiñones.
Thank you so much. So good morning, everyone. In order to provide language access, we will be providing interpretation into Spanish. So I will go ahead and give the announcement in Spanish and then we can begin. Buenos días a todos. Esta reunión contará con interpretación simultánea en español. Si usted es bilingüe, no tiene que presionar nada. Si usted no es bilingüe, tendrá que elegir su idioma para escuchar la interpretación. Si está usando una computadora, verá un icono en la parte inferior de su pantalla a la derecha en forma de globo que dice interpretación. Haga clic ahí y seleccione español. Si está usando un iPad o el teléfono, localice el menú de 3 puntos arriba, haga clic en interpretación de idiomas y elija español. Gracias.
All right, well, thank you. Before we begin, I just want to go through a few introductions. And so joining us today is in the webinar, we have a few important individuals that make up our admin team. And so we do have Mr. Sportel. Mr. Sportel, say hello.
Hello, thank you all for coming. I'm the Dean of Student Engagement, and that means my role here is to look out for the safety and well-being of all the students and staff here on the campus. And I really look forward to starting the year.
Thank you. And we have Ms. Chu Merritt.
Hi, everybody. I'm Clancy Chu, the assistant principal here at Goleta Valley Junior High. Welcome, and we're glad that all of you could join us this morning. We're looking forward to sharing information with you regarding our distance learning plan for the upcoming year, and just hopefully getting it and looking forward to connecting with everybody via Zoom.
Thank you. And also joining us is our office manager, Ms. Gonzalez.
Good morning, Marcia Gonzalez.
And Ms. Spencer, our registrar and counseling secretary.
Good morning, everyone. I am looking forward to meeting you all. And if you need anything, just give me a call or email me. It is our busy time, but I will get to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. So a little housekeeping, we do have a Q&A, question and answer open. And so as I go through the presentation, do be inclined to ask questions along the way. If we are not able to get to all the questions through the presentation, we will save those questions and then answer them as accordingly throughout the day and get back to you as soon as possible. So do keep that in mind. We have about 142 participants today, so it's great to see the engagement of families joining us today. We do have another webinar this evening beginning at 6:15, and that will go, we gave ourselves up to 7:30. And so today, we plan on going right around up to 11:45 a.m. We'll probably be able to finish up a little earlier. But our plan today, so the purpose of our webinar today is really to share our distance learning plan. Our team, and also in collaboration with our district team, have been just going through a distance learning plan and trying to make it as rigorous as possible, but also with the understanding that it's going to be much better than our experience that we went through in the spring. And so we do plan on sharing out our plan for rigorous distance learning. And also identify resources through the start of school. A little context. And so Governor Newsom went ahead and he directed all Santa Barbara County schools to begin the upcoming school year with distance learning. And so that was a quick turnaround time. We were planning contingency plans. And so we did have a plan for full-on distance learning, hybrid, and also traditional. And so within those plans, we were able to quickly shift into just what it will take to open up successfully with distance learning in mind. We do want to also talk about unique family needs and also really frame in that distance learning will be different in comparison to the spring. If I had to compare the spring to where we are right now, the spring was COVID distance learning. And so we were under an emergency and we had to do a quick turnaround. And so over the summer, just over the course of the spring into the summer and now, we have been able to go slower. We have been able to process through what we're going to need, and we have been able to just set up the conditions and the structures to ensure that we will be providing a rigorous learning environment for our students. So the distance learning plan, I shared it out through a parent square, and also our district shared it out as well. Throughout the presentation towards the end, I'll go ahead and take you to our distance learning website where you could find the entire distance learning plan and also other resources that will be helpful for you. So our vision for learners is two primary areas: accelerate the development of the global learner. And so within that, we start thinking about the capacities of our students and what it's going to take to really prepare students for 21st century level skills where you have collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and communication. And then within that, also embedding in our META plan. META is an acronym for Multilingual Excellence Transforming Achievement. And so at the core of that is inclusivity, equitable practices, and just making sure that the gaps that we are seeing in student learning are ones that we are addressing throughout the year. So I do want to highlight where we've been and where we're going. We have been incredibly proud of just the collective collaboration that exists here at GV. And our greatest progress over the past 4 years have been ongoing growth in the areas of English and math as it relates to Smarter Balance. And so I highlighted them in green there because green does show growth overall. The areas that we have identified as our greatest needs is really addressing the suspensions at our school and also chronic absenteeism. And so those are the key areas that we do plan on focusing and continuing to focus on, but also making sure that if overall we are in green in English and in math, we do understand that there are disparities and there are some gaps in there that we still need to address. But we are incredibly proud of the growth that we have been seeing here at GV. And that is a testament to the amount of collaboration, the commitment, the accountability, and just our commitment to learning and teaching. And so I wanted to start in highlighting that data because it is one that we continually fall back on. And as we go into this school year, we do plan on looking at internal data of student learning. We call it formative learning, just informs our practice. We see how kids are doing. We find any gaps and we try to improve on those gaps based on just sharing with each other and seeing what's been working and what's not. So what is in the distance learning plan? We have a rigorous teaching and learning. And really what that means is we provide each student with high-level academic preparation that is standards aligned, that is engaging. We do want to make that learning relevant. And above all else, we want to make it inclusive. How that ties into GV. We have been on a journey, and this journey has taken us into identifying why do we exist? And at the core of why we exist is we are here to ensure safety, accountability, inclusion, and learning. We're also the Mariners, and so it was just fitting to have an acronym that identifies as SAIL, sail to the galleons that you see navigating the waters. Within our mission, we got to ask ourselves what drives us. And in our vision, we have all Goleta Valley Junior High Mariners will be engaged learners, culturally aware, and productive citizens in the 21st century global community. And so what's grounded in there is those 21st century skills that I referenced earlier: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. And we also identified what are the behaviors that we want to see in ourselves, in our students, and everyone across the board. And we really grounded on some core values of respect, values of innovation, of being a lifelong learner, goal setting, and equity. And so within that, we embed that within everything that we do at school, within our school-wide expectation, and within our tiers of support. And at the core of what we do and how we measure our rigorous learning is focusing on higher order thinking. And when you think about that, it's really about what is the depth and complexity that we want to engage our students in designing lessons. And so this is something that we have been working on for the past 4 years now. And we finally have a systemized way of collaborating and engaging with our staff and our students and our community to ensure that the lesson designs that we are creating are ones that are encompassing a depth and complexity that's at a higher order level thinking. And so grounded in that is our district mission of preparing students for a world that is yet to be created. And so what better time and what worse time to really be thinking about that is during these pandemic times where there's a lot of anxiety, uncertainty, but what is grounding us is our core values that we hold dear to GV, our vision that drives us, and our mission, which really exemplifies who we are as an organization here at GV, and also how we're connected with Santa Barbara Unified School District. At this time, I'm gonna go ahead and have Miss Chu just go down in terms of what does that look like at GV. We wanted to simplify this for you, but we also wanted to share the slide deck later, so we left it a little more with details, but I'll just have Ms. Chu kind of run through these.
Great, thank you. So welcome again, everybody. So as Mr. Ortega has said, each of you has received the district learning plan, as well as the one specific to Goleta Valley. So I'm just going to briefly go through the bullet points here just to kind of give you a little bit more clarity on it. And then if there's further questions, please do feel free to put those in the question and answer or to reach out to us afterwards. So one of the things we know that we learned as a site and as a district from the spring, as well as just learned in general about distance learning, is that it can be very challenging for families and for students to stay on top of how to access all the information for classes. When you're talking about managing 6 classes, 6 different teachers, and for many families, multiple students in the house, that can be a challenging endeavor. And with all of that we have, that our teachers do have to use with technology, there is a lot that's out there. Oh, my bullet points went away, Mr. Ortega. So, but on that note, hopefully they will come back. One of the things we are really working on is making sure that we kind of, in a sense, norm or have a one place where everybody knows they can access the materials for the class, information about the class, all of those important things, both for students and for parents. So all teachers will be utilizing the NEO platform to do that. And if you are a new student, a new 7th grader to Goleta Valley, do not worry if you're not aren't familiar with what NEO is. We will be supporting you. Your teachers will be supporting you to learn how to use NEO, what that is. But that is the platform that all teachers will utilize for the kind of the main starting point that students and families can access things. And the syllabus for their class, all of that information will be on their NEAL platform. And I'm going to kind of try to go off memory because I don't have the bullet points. But
I'm going to include as well, Mrs. Chu, the 80 minutes of instruction will include some asynchronous and synchronous learning. And those are a couple of terms that you're going to be hearing about a lot more.
Yes, and so that schedule is listed. You can access that if you haven't already seen that in our distance learning plan. But just real briefly, Mondays, students will access all 6 of their classes. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, they will be accessing their periods 1, 3, and 5. And Wednesdays and Fridays will be periods 2, 4, and 6. And just a note on that, on the days that they have 3 classes, those are block classes, as Mr. Sportel mentioned, 80-minute block classes. And do we think that teachers will be doing 80 minutes of this environment Zoom with their students? No, we do not. We know that that wouldn't be an effective use of that time, but they will use that 80 minutes in a combination of those instructional time, face-to-face in that setting or the synchronous setting, and then also time potentially that students are working individually in small groups on assignments. So that will all be built into that 80-minute time frame, 3 classes throughout the day. Now, generally on Thursdays, it has been always the day that we have had as a late start. For those of you new to Goleta Valley, you're probably used to typically having an early release day where your teachers in the elementary setting got together. In the secondary setting, we do that as a late start Thursday. And while our schedule is slightly different, we're still holding to that. That's a really important time. We will have our grade level teams. We call them professional learning communities. So 7th grade English team, 8th grade social studies team, they get together on those times. And those are times that we come back as a team and focus on our instruction. How are we meeting the needs of our students? And that will be even more important. It's a critical piece, but it will be even more important as we are in the distance learning environment. And we will continue to hold to protocols and structures that we use that are very effective and that support our teachers in this process. And just real briefly, what that looks like is teachers get together. They will utilize our goal of the higher order thinking, plan a lesson that they will then be implementing into their classes, in this case, in the distance learning environment. And then they will be coming back together after they've implemented that lesson to be able to look at student learning, student work, the evidence of that, and talk about that, be able to see the strengths, the challenges, what are the next steps that they need to address. And so that's a cycle that our learning teams, our teachers will continue to go through to make sure that we're reviewing, we're continuing to look at how our students are doing and making the proper and necessary modifications or deciding on next steps. So that's our PLC Thursday time. Our admin team, which Mr. Ortega, Mr. Sportel, and myself, we are all here to support you, to support your child, to support your family. We will have office staff on site every day. And so you will be able to reach out, whether it's via phone, whether we will have protocols in place so that if someone needs to come on campus, we will be able to attend to that. We have an amazing counseling team, Ms. Cabrera and Ms. Ricardo, and they will continue to do the amazing work that they do. You will hear more about that as we continue on, but they follow a national model and they work to support students in 3 areas that you see there: the academics, in college and career, and in their personal social development. And lastly, we are excited to share that we will be having, even in our virtual setting, we are going to have a house assembly. That's a big part of something we do at the beginning of every year. So especially for our new students that are joining Goleta Valley, this will be a great and fun time that we can still build that connection with our school community. And that's going to be a big focus for us, even in this virtual setting. And there will be ongoing things that we'll do to engage your child in that. And that's it for now.
Thank you, Ms. Chu. Ms. Cabrera will be joining us this evening, but we are incredibly proud of our counseling team, just working to systemize the various different supports that we do have. So I can't stress enough how much work they dedicate towards the academic domain, and also towards the college and career and social emotional learning. And so later on throughout the presentation, I will show you where you can find more detailed information about how we structure our support through our counseling team. Great. All right. Next up in the distance learning plan is the component of safe and affirming and inclusive learning environment. And so just aligns really well with our vision of safety, accountability, inclusion, and learning. But we create safe, supportive, culturally sustaining, and inclusive learning environments that promote the social and emotional well-being of both students and adults. And so what I want to emphasize there is really the focus on mental health services that we will be providing here at school and that we have. The focus on social emotional learning through various different clubs that we plan on having, but also the FSA counselor that we have. We have a restorative approach counselor, and we also have a youth and family youth outreach. And so these are all positions that will be geared towards ensuring that we're looking after every single one of our students. More specifically to GV, I'll go ahead now and really kick it off to Mr. Sportel, who will talk a little bit more about what that will look like here at GV.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. The well-being of our students is one of our top priorities here, always. And with the new challenges that the distance learning environment presents, we are working very hard to adapt to the specific needs that are going to be happening. In addition to the support that our counseling team provides, we do have a mental health referral system. We work with a family service agency that is district-wide, and we take a look at those referrals. We contact parents and discuss what that might look like for particular students who fall into that category. But again, we are very committed to reaching out to students that we see that are in need and providing whatever help that we can. We also are working on ensuring that our teachers and all of our staff are ready for this challenge on a daily basis. And we are engaging in a district-wide program to address wellness and self-care with that. And what goes along with that is the idea that in order to provide this mental and social and emotional support to students, we need to ensure that we are in a position to do that as staff. We are going to continue on some of our practices that we do regularly and always, and most of those go through our ASB, and the ASB stands for Associated Student Body, and it is the organization of students that volunteer to provide support. We will be holding our elections soon after school begins, and we'll get our ASB officers in place. And here at GV, we have 4 separate houses, and each student finds themselves in one of those houses. And we utilize that structure to provide a student senate to our ASB. And we also compete from house to house for special privileges and parties. And we will be continuing that practice. All of these things it's important to remember that these go through the student. So these are student initiated, and we support them in providing these things. And so what it does is it gives an opportunity for leadership for all students. And we also have several other projects that we continue to support. So one of them, a very important one this year, is AHA, which stands for Attitude, Harmony, and Achievement. And this is a group that we have worked with for several years at this point and has provided really great support and a support group for students. But this year that role will be slightly expanded. They have made a lot of progress on practices that can help make students feel included and safe within this virtual environment. And so we will be utilizing that organization to help provide that support to teachers so that we can have inclusive, safe classrooms for students and really utilize the best practices out there to engage them in this process. We also have several other avenues that we'll be continuing this year, primarily in a virtual environment. However, it will also be, there may be some direct interaction as a result of these. Mrs. Chu already referred to our assembly that we're going to be doing virtually for students. And this is another area that the AHA group will be helping us with. This should be a very exciting environment. And again, what our focus is to maximize the potential of this virtual environment to engage students. Overall, we're seeking to work in partnership with families and students to support the social and emotional learning that goes along with our regular academic instruction. And that social emotional learning really is about having students understand who they are and being self-aware and being able to manage their own feelings and emotions, and also socially, so that they understand the social environment. We help them with relationship skills and decision making. So those are kind of the areas that we refer to when we talk about social and emotional learning. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Sportel.
Thank you.
At the core of what we do here, this is where we want to get back. We all want to get to this moment where we could all be on site again and congregate together. And we just keep this in our mind, and we know that that's a motivation. At the core of what we want to do and what we want to strive to do in a virtual setting is really build relationships and work with students and staff and our team to cultivate those relationships through an online setting. SAIL is our school-wide learning expectations, and it is something that we share with students, and it is a guide that we'll provide for them in terms of how to create that relationship building culture at GV by being safe, by being accountable, by being inclusive, and by being learners, both synchronously when we're face-to-face and asynchronously when we're not face-to-face. Student supports. Within our distance plan, we nurture positive relationships with students and use a multi-tiered system of support to ensure prevention and intervention to maximize student engagement and achievement. And so when we think about that multi-tiered approach, it is that process of trying to provide the service to all students, and what can we do across supports for all students. That is at the tier 1. When we do find that students need additional support, interventions, support in math, support in English, additional tutoring, then we go into that tier 2 approach. Less students, but more intensive. And if students still need more support, then we go into a 3rd tier approach. Again, more intensive and more support. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what that will mean in terms of expectations, attendance, and engagement. And with the support here, we're talking about support for all students, but especially students who have specialized needs, emergent multilingual students, but also students with disabilities. So with that, I'll go ahead and kick it back to Ms. Chu. Ms. Chu oversees curriculum and instruction, and she also helps to oversee special education. Ms. Chu.
Great. All right. So as Mr. Ortega said, yes, just to let everybody know that I am your point person for those of you that do have students in any of our special education programs. Many of you I had the privilege of meeting in the spring of new students when attending the meetings at all the meetings for students who are transitioning over from the elementary. So I look forward to connecting again on that. But I am a key point person for any of you that have students in that program. So just real quickly on here, as the first bullet point suggests, you know, one of the huge things that we are currently working on, even right now as we speak, that we will continue to work on with our teachers as they are, you know, already in preparing for their students to come back and to meet new students, is building that virtual classroom environment. So that's a huge part of the learning experience, and our teachers are building their own growth in that area. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in today's webinar, but really growing their capacity to be able to build that virtual classroom environment that is welcoming, inclusive, and allows all students the ability to access the learning. So speaking to that, to some, you know, students who do have areas of need that we want to make sure we're supporting in our special education programs, we have case managers who will be overseeing every student in the special ed program. For those of you that are new, do have a case manager that is assigned. They will be a critical point person for you as well. So we are in the process right now of doing all of that organizing and assigning. So one of the things I will want to make sure to let you know is that you will receive information from the case manager introducing themselves, letting you know how and when is the best way to get a hold of them. And so that information will be coming out to you as we get closer to the start of the school year. In the meantime, if you do have questions regarding anything for special education, again, do feel free to reach out to me. We will be working on we always get information out to all of the teachers so that they are prepared to work with your child that is going to be in their class that has an IEP. So that information is in the works right now so that we can make sure that that gets out as well. Any concerns or challenges that may come up in your child's IEP will be addressed by the whole IEP team, just as we would in our face-to-face setting. We know that there may be some specific challenges that might arise with the distance learning environment, but we will continue to address those just as we always would with our IEP team. Another component of support that we provide here, another area that I oversee as well, is our 504 plans. And those are separate from the special education program. And so we receive that information from students new students coming to us from the schools that they've been a part of. So counselors are the point person to oversee the 504 plan. So if you have a student with the last name A through K, Ms. Cabrera is your academic counselor, and she will oversee your child's 504 plan. If the last name is L through Z, that will be Ms. Ricardo. And again, those are critical supports that we will provide to your child's teacher so they know what are those accommodations that your child needs in terms of accessing the learning. And so that information will be provided for your child's teachers. But any questions that come up or pertain to the 504 plan, again, you can reach out to myself or your child's counselor. And our students will continue to always have access to their counselors. We have specific procedures. Obviously, there'll be a little bit different than our in-person procedures for students to request a meeting or a time to check in with their counselors, but we will get out to you as a family as well as your child what that procedure is so that they can do that in the setting that we're in. And we will always provide that time for them to be able to connect with their counselor. During our classes, we are asking, and this is more something that we'll get back to with more information, but one of the things we are asking this year is that students will have their video cameras turned on during class instruction. There's a big, lots of reasons behind that, but we do want to build that connection between teachers and students. So that is a district-wide expectation that we will be sharing with teachers, with students, and knowing that when there's specific situations that we need to address with that, we absolutely will on an individual basis. So we just wanted to share that out, but more information will come directly between your teacher and your students on that.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Chu. And I do want to emphasize that our professional learning days that we have coming up, these are part of the areas that we will be focusing on and establishing norms. Really critical that we have norms in place because it does provide predictability. And we do want to provide grace and also want to have a predictable environment for our students that helps out with the ease of anxiety and stress. And so that's going to be another primary focus when we actually get started with professional learning days and be able to communicate with our students once we start the first week of school. I wanted to add some pictures into this slide deck just so we can identify who are those support networks that we have here at GV in the front office, both in the traditional setting, hybrid setting, and in a distance learning environment. And so on the left, you have our administrative team, myself, Ms. Chu, and Mr. Sportel. And on the right, you have our counseling team that also works with social emotional support. And so you do have Ms. Cabrera. She is the head counselor that also oversees students with last letters A through K, and Ms. Ricardo, who oversees students with last letters L through Z. On the bottom left here in the middle, you have Ms. DeCarmo, and she is our FSA, our Family Service Agency counselor. And so whenever we see a need of a student needing mental health services, we do have a referral process. And she is an on-site family service agency. And so we are just incredibly grateful to have her on site. Also, we have Ms. Becchio, who dedicates part-time hours towards restorative practices and just helping students get reconnected with school, whether they're struggling with attendance or they're struggling with something at home or an area in the classroom. She's there to support them and work with the counseling team. The bottom left, you have Mr. Lozano, our school psychologist. Got to refresh that for the Spanish version in Psicólogo. And on the bottom right, you have Ms. Hatcher Day. She is our librarian, our newly hired librarian, and she was our library tech last year. And I put her in here because she will be working on creating groups and also will be working on the yearbook and establishing some clubs. And so those are all areas that will help with social emotional needs of students. Within our front office, as I introduced earlier, you have Ms. Gonzalez, who's our office manager, but also there to take phone calls and guide you to the right individual. Ms. Sanchez will be starting tomorrow, and so she will be supporting Ms. Chu and Mr. Sportel. So if in the event you're not able to reach them right away, you could always contact Ms. Sanchez to get a hold of them, or Ms. Gonzalez as well. Mr. Mata Vasquez is our Youth and Family Outreach Coordinator. This is a new position that we have here, and he'll be working with families that, say, for example, are struggling with device connection or are struggling with distance learning or trying to get them engaged with the various different committees that we offer at school. So he will be overseeing that and also working with students. And getting them and making them feel connected with their classrooms, but also with school in general. On the top right, you have Ms. Spencer. She is your point person when it comes to the registration process and also supporting our counseling secretaries, secretary for our counselors. And on the bottom, you have Ms. Cunningham, who is our site-based nurse. And she is there to support students with various different types of needs, but she also works with students with special needs, especially anyone that has specific plans within their individualized education plan. Ms. Lopez, I don't have a picture of her, newly hired last year, but she is our attendance clerk, and she will be the one that you would be calling when it comes to student not being able to participate in distance learning throughout the year. Moving on in the slide deck is what we will be engaging with in professional learning. And our goal here is to provide a variety of professional learning experiences for our staff. And so our framework is grounded in technological literacy. And so really having the foundational skills of learning how to use Zoom, learning how to navigate the computer, the internet, the web browsers. I call them Web 2.0 tools or social tools like Google Docs, slide decks, anything that students are able to share and that teachers need to share. On the bottom right, you have the knowledge of the content. And so if you think of that, you're thinking about the standards, the skills that students need to achieve, the lesson that they need to cover within that scope for the year. On the left, you have knowledge of instruction. And so it's one thing to cover the content, but it's another thing to understand the lesson design that's really going to engage students in a distance learning environment. And so you can teach traditionally and provide a lesson, or you can engage students and engage them in breakout groups, in discussions, in questions and answers, and project-based learning, something that allows them to dive a little deeper into the learning. And so when you combine all those three, that is what encompasses that rigor. That is what encompasses the learning. That is that depth and complexity I was referencing within our goal. That is that higher order thinking. And so to engage students in higher order thinking, it really needs all of those different areas. And then when you look at all of it from the big perspective, we also need to include cultural proficiency and really addressing some gaps that exist within student learning. And so that is at the heart of what professional learning will encompass and has been encompassing throughout the years. But now more than ever, we really need the technology piece, the content piece, and that instruction piece. I've always referenced, and I'll continue to reference, that technology is the vehicle, and it is the vehicle for delivering instruction. And we're delivering that content, but then we're also doing it with knowledge of what are the best practices for delivering that content in a distance learning environment. To chime a little more into that, I'll kick it back to Ms. Chu, who we co-facilitate, and this is the process that we're going to be going into in terms of our professional learning days. Ms. Chu?
All right, great, thank you. So yes, I think as Mr. Ortega is mentioning, you know, the learning side for teachers it's always there. We as educators are always learning. We're always working to grow our capacity no matter what our role is. But I think now more than ever, given not just the current situation, but just the constant change and innovation that's happening in our world, our teachers are always working to grow their capacity to improve in their ways of supporting learning and enabling your child to access and learn all the things that they need to be successful in our society. So with that, professional learning this year, I'm really excited about, in that there are a lot of needs that our teachers need, but we have a lot of avenues to help support and guide them and enable them to meet those needs. So our teachers are already starting as we speak today. They are already in the different modes of doing professional learning to gain what they need, whether it's in the technology realm, whether it's in the instructional realm, or whether it's relating to content. And they will be working in all three of those avenues in their professional learning. And one of the things that I'm excited about is that we know that teachers come with so much expertise, but just like students, they're all at different places. And so we want to focus on being able to meet them where they're at and provide the support and learning that they need to take their teaching, their instruction where it needs to go. So teachers have the opportunity this year to be able to do personalized learning, what we call personalized professional learning. They will be doing that to support their work in distance learning, and it will address those areas that we've been speaking about. So they have a platform that they will be utilizing that also engages in support from coaches across this state. And so they will have access to that and really use that to support their teaching. We also come together, so they will be doing that personally on their own time. We also will have our time together as a whole staff, where we will be looking at our distance learning plan and the specific things that we need to do in that realm to support students. So in those days prior to school starting, we will be coming together collectively as a staff. We will be utilizing research-based practices that are there for the distance learning environment, and from other scenarios that, while they might be slightly different, we have research that supports the work that has been done in other situations that have caused schools to go to a distance learning environment. So we will look at that collectively as a staff on those professional learning days prior to school start. And then as we continue to move through the year, those opportunities for growth are going to continue. Both of those teachers will continue to embark on that individual journey of personalized learning in the areas that they need that. And as a whole staff, we continue to come back together and do collective and collaborative learning. And so it's an exciting time. There's a lot going on, but our teachers are in the thick of it and looking forward to doing that to meet your students' needs.
Great, thank you, Ms. Chu. Move on here. Family engagement. This is a big one for me, and I'm so appreciative of all of you that have been able to join us today. And again, if you have questions or if you want to add information in the chat boxes, we'll go ahead and reference those and get back to you and see if there's an opportunity today to answer some of your questions. But the goal here is to develop and leverage strong partnerships with parents to ensure equitable learning outcomes. And so what I think there is, what are the effective communication tools that we use? And so we do plan on using NEO. We do plan on using Parent Square, but we do want to centralize the communication for you. And we do plan on centralizing it through NEO. We want everybody to have access through it. And so as I go into the parent engagement piece, distance learning is a great opportunity to get involved. The irony is that it was sometimes more difficult to get to school in a traditional setting for PTAs, ELACs, site councils. And now we have a greater number of participants who are engaging in the learning of students and really engaging in the school. And so if I had to ask my question, what is it that I want to take back when this pandemic is over? And that is online opportunities for parents to engage in real time when we have the physical meetings. And so that is something that I do plan on bringing forth when this is all over. I did put up here our Goleta Valley Junior High PTA, Ms. Tina Brenza, and her email's up there. And we also have an opportunity for you to be part of School Site Council this school year. If you like working with money and overseeing various different aspects of what our goals are to address the gaps that exist at our school, but also to address our strengths. School Site Council is a good opportunity for you to understand budget of the school and how we're using Title I funds, and also how we're using Title III funds and our LCAP, which is a Local Control and Accountability Plan. We also will have opportunities for our CPAC meetings, which is a Staff Special Education Parent Advisory Council. And we will be sending out more messaging once we get those meetings solidified for the year. And for our emergent multilingual learners, we have our English Learner Advisory Council. And so this is one where I will be working on developing a new team. The difficult part about junior high is that you're in 7th grade and then you're out 8th grade. I only get parents for 2 years. So it's a really quick building relationships, getting them accustomed to how to support the school, but also how to provide input for our school. And there is no better way to provide input for our emergent multilingual students than through the English Learner Advisory Council. And so do consider these opportunities. We will provide more messaging in terms of how you could become a part of them. I will be meeting with the board, PTA board this week. And then we will be making plans for our first association meeting coming up as we begin the school year. So here's what we will have for you. We will centralize all messaging and information through our NEO as the homepage for all resources and assignments for students. In terms of parent resources, this is one of a series of webinars we will be having. I do also plan on having other forms of family outreach, but more importantly, just to connect with you all. All messaging information shared with parents and families will be provided in English and Spanish. That is messaging that is going to come out from us. I'll be sending out a message every Sunday. We call it the GB Sunday Bulletin. And so with those, they will go out as a digest. And so if you do have the setting of immediate, it'll come to you immediately. But if you have the setting as a digest, you'll be getting that digest around 6 p.m. That day. Our school website has been updated with a Goleta Valley Junior High distance learning page. We've also created a Spanish version of that, which I'll go into towards the end of this presentation. We will hold the regular meetings of PTA. We will hold regular meetings of ELAC. And I will be holding coffee with the principal, which will be more of a Zoom classroom, less than a webinar. So that way we can engage in conversations and I can give you updates about school climate, how we're doing with school. And it's also an opportunity for you to share that as well in a more of an informal setting. In terms of norms, we are establishing norms for parents and family communication. So again, the standardizing NEO welcome page, the weekly updates. And also we will be including within our syllabi that we provide the response time for communication when you send an email to us, when you send an email to teachers, so that way you get a quick response time so we could support you. Access to technology. This one is really critical for us right now because our goal is to have 100% of our students with access to technology. We want to ensure that with every student. We want to make sure that they have Wi-Fi connectivity prior to the start of school. And so if you are a family or you know of family that may have connectivity issues with Wi-Fi, do let us know as soon as possible. You can send an email to Mr. Sportel. And we have data from last year, but also current data when talking to families to figure out which students we need to identify to support them. So our district will be providing hotspots, wireless hotspots, and also we'll be providing an iPad for every student. Our returning 8th graders have iPads. If they don't have an iPad, our district will be providing that. And for all of our incoming 7th graders, all iPads will be distributed through our district. And so more details on that are here. Mr. Sportel. Mr. Sportel, are you there?
Hi, sorry, I had a little trouble getting the mute button off there. We learned a lot about connecting and engaging families at the end of the last school year as we went into our emergency distance learning. And we have systems in place that help to utilize all the support we have at school to contact primarily by phone for families, although this year we will also be having the ability to host some families in in-person meetings when required. And what our goal is to do is to reach out to all the teachers and we procure any referrals of students who are showing the signs of struggling to attend classes and to be engaged. And we reach out to those students specifically and continue to do so until we get the problem solved. And we are supported in the technology endeavor by our district educational technology support team, ETS. You'll see those initials, the acronym ETS, and that refers to our district support, which is working very hard to make sure that we support students in all of their internet and technology needs. I've seen a lot of questions on the Q&A regarding the technology support. So please stay tuned to Parent Square because they will be putting out some very specific information on what to expect and also how to contact them for your needs.
Great, thank you. So we have an opportunity here to create a new reality for teaching and learning. And when I started today, we are a data-driven organization that looks at best practices and looks at the gaps, and then we work together with our teachers to figure out how do we close those gaps and how do we continue to help students make progress. And we have existing strengths. We have a great teaching team that engages in cycles of inquiry that is a testament to the work we have done with the progress we have made in English and math. We also have growth opportunities. We know we need to address suspensions. We know we need to address chronic absenteeism. And so we are working on those. And that's part of the reason why this year we hired a youth and family outreach to help support those endeavors. Never would I have thought when I was getting my master's in curriculum and instruction with a focus on educational technology that this would be the time where it is essential to put those skills and that knowledge to use. And so I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the admin team that we have to be able to support in this environment. And also our teachers, we went through a rapid transition to figure out how to work with technology in the spring. And that rapid transition has enabled us to not have to go through that emergency cycle this school year and engage more in the content knowledge and also the instructional practices so we can create that rigorous learning environment. School schedules, a day in the life of the mariner. And so to think about it in terms of 7th and 8th grade, our goal here is to really get into the mindset of preparing our students to prepare the materials in the workplace, to think about what student needs on Monday, check in with all the teachers, and also to view NEO. And so those are the key things that our teachers will be going over the first week of school. A lot of culture building, a lot of getting to know each other, figuring out what supports they need, but also going over the procedures and expectations throughout the school year. School day will begin around 9 a.m. I'm going to show you the schedule right now, just to kind of look at it more in terms of what it will look like. So period 1 on Monday, we're going through all 6 periods, 0 and 7th. So that day will be more of a check-in day on Monday. And then on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have those block schedules that will allow students and teachers to really engage in what we call synchronous learning, but also asynchronous learning. So synchronous in terms of face-to-face, those could be the Zoom sessions that they have and the discussions that they're having and the learning that they're doing and sharing. Asynchronous can mean more of what are they doing individually? What are they doing on their own? So it could start with synchronous, they start working together, and then their breakout groups, and then they're working individually or with small groups with teachers checking in, and then finalizing that block with an exit ticket. And so this is what the schedule will look like. This is what we're communicating with our students. I'll go into our distance learning website to kind of show you a planning tool that you could use also to get ready for the school year. After school, we will look at office hours with our teachers so that students know when the office hours are being offered. And we're also going to be providing tutoring for all of our students through a software platform that will provide tutoring to all students face-to-face with a real person. And so once we iron out the details and the procedures to that, we'll be go ahead and pushing it out to all our students. So we're really excited about having this service of online tutoring for our kiddos. Looking ahead, we're going to talk a little bit in terms of the messaging we've been sending out with registration and also Regatta. We are looking and figuring out all the procedures that we'll be messaging out this Friday in terms of a virtual regatta. And so we are doing everything that we can to not have an in-person setting for regatta, and trying to figure out which are the key areas that we can do virtually. And so, Mrs. Sportel, we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yes. Let's see, are we on the next page? Thank you. Yes. So the students will be attending all of their classes virtually. They will be supported by our tech department. We will continue to have the meal services provided here at school, and the schedule may be similar to what we have now, but may change slightly through our not only through our PE classes, but through our other supports with our counselors and FSA. We will be providing support for health and wellness. And I think that that's all I have, Mr. Ortega.
Great, thank you. And for Friday, we'll be sending out the messaging in terms of what regatta will look like, but do plan on it being virtual. Much of what we have in the signups is the big push we're doing is the registration. So just making sure that you complete the registration. And so the face-to-face that we will be creating slots for during August 10th and August 11th will be in-person families that need assistance with the registration process, or need assistance navigating a computer, a web browser, and they will need someone in person to be able to facilitate that. And so we'll have that ready by Friday. And with that is just making sure that we are abiding by the county health guidelines when families and visitors come to school. We just want to make sure that we're taking all the health precautions in place with that. So my last slide here is what our webpage looks like. And so to the top right of our webpage are two buttons that indicate Goleta Valley Junior High distance learning. I added them there because we don't anticipate distance learning happening for a very, very long time. So I wanted to create something that we could easily fall back on once we go into traditional learning. But I want to take you there just so you could see what it looks like and what you'll see. And so this is our distance learning platform. I'm just going to click on edit real quick because I want to show you that this website is catered for phones, iPads, and also for regular computers. And so my connection might be a little slow right now. There we go. Okay. So this is what it looks like on a regular computer, and this is what it looks like on a phone. But just going through there, this is what it looks like on an iPad. And so we just wanted to make it accessible in all various platforms. What we have here are resources for you. We've linked up our Santa Barbara Unified School District distance learning plan here. All the red items are the links that take you to the distance learning plans for a more in-depth view about what those plans actually look like with everything that I summarized to you today. Also in here is our Goleta Valley Junior High class schedule, the centralized platform Neo that I've been referencing, also access to Zoom, access to our counseling page, and access to an organizational template. And so this organizational template is one that I use with my students, but also one that I would highly encourage that you begin to use with your kids as well, because you create a copy of it and then they could fill out kind of what their plan looks like throughout the year or throughout the week or throughout the day. It just allows them to just keep things organized with communication, with assignments, and any Zoom links that are being provided by teachers. It's a resource, not a requirement. Also links to the Google Apps. All of our students will have access to Google Suites, which will mean Google Calendar, Google Excel sheets, Gmail, and Google Docs. We have information here of our district website from Learning at Home, information about the grab and go sites for lunch distribution. And for any tech assistance, I added a button here that takes you straight into tech support. So if you have any questions about any current iPads that are broken or doesn't have access or need access to the internet or something's going on, this is a great place to start. But also call us if you're not getting the support that you need. From our library, we have independent reading resources. We have a Stop It app. This is a way of making sure that our students feel safe. It's one thing to say that we are safe, but it's another way to kind of ensure that students feel safe. And so we will be talking to students about what that looks like. We will be engaging in digital citizenship lessons that really talk about internet safety, how to work with social media, how to really conduct ourselves in online environments. And then I included also parent resources, which is a staff directory. The staff directory is an easy go-to page where you can get all our emails to all our counselors, FSA counselors, and any one of us, and also our extensions. You can call our school and then type an extension. And we have gone ahead and created all of our phones in such a way where I could receive the phone calls through my mobile device. And so we're accessible whether we're at the site or whether we're off site. Moving down the line, just Zoom meeting protocols that we put in there and also Zoom for families. And so with that said, that is the core of what we have within our distance learning. And so that brings us just about to our close to our webinar. Let me go ahead and stop sharing here so I can see any questions that you may have. And questions in regards to Regatta, we'll be go ahead and sending information about what Regatta will look like on a virtual end. And we will be focusing on providing face-to-face support only to families who are having difficulty access to technology and web browsing, and the registration process along with our Goleta Valley Junior High welcome packet. The other items when it comes to like PE distribution or anything that we have to hand out, we will be taking care of those once we have all of our safety guidelines in place. Our goal there is to finalize all our safety guidelines and have it all ready to go by this Friday. So more messaging on that. Schedules, great question. Class schedules will be available as soon as the registration is completed by families. And so we will need the registration and the address verification. Ms. Spencer, do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that one?
I'm sorry, I was reading the questions. Can you ask me the question one more time?
Just elaborate a little bit more on the registration and the address verification, the guide for that.
Yeah, so if you have any specific questions, feel free to call me via telephone, which is 805-967-3486, extension 2502, or you can email me at spencer@sbunified.org. And your registration, we have links for that, and I believe you all have been receiving messages as to where you should do your registration. During the registration process, you may upload your documents such as birth certificate, immunization records, and proof of address. The proof of address, what we're looking for is a recent utility bill, your property taxes, a rental or lease agreement. And it is just one proof of your address. You don't need to upload all of those documents. I will be looking at our reports to see that you have completed that information. Unfortunately, there isn't a confirmation that you receive from my end, when I've received your documents and it is complete, you will just stop receiving all of our reminders. So in regards to enrollment, if you still needed to enroll your student, I don't know if any of you have been invited to this webinar and you still need to enroll your student officially into our school. But if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to email me or give me a call and I will give you the guidelines for that information. If you are enrolling for the first time, you need all of the documents that I explained along with the birth certificate. But other than that, feel free to reach out to me. It is, like I said, it's on my busy time, but I will get to all of you as soon as I can.
Great, thank you. And question came up in terms of virtual clubs. And yes, we do plan on having virtual clubs, absolutely. And part of what we are going to do with our teaching staff is really find out, so clubs are student initiated, and with that student initiation, we want to provide our students with access to which teachers will be available and open to host clubs, virtual clubs. And so our goal is going to be to provide students with timelines of when teachers will be available to host clubs. Once we have that set, we will go ahead and provide that to ASB, our Associated Student Body, and they will in turn start the process of doing a club rally, which you call, which is students that want to create a club that have an interest. They will go ahead and submit a proposal. ASB will process it, approve it, and then students will go ahead and connect with a teacher who will be a moderator, someone who's supervising and making sure that things are going well. And that's going to be the process for virtual clubs. So we do plan on doing that. Last year I did a virtual DJ music in the quad. And so we'll see if we do something along those lines as well. Let's see, in regards to, there was another question, but I think it got answered. And so how will PE work in Zoom? That is a process that our PE teachers will work on. And so it will create, in terms of them designing learning experiences and guiding students in terms of how to perform. Well, they'll start with the standards and then they'll design the lessons and then they'll give students activities to complete throughout the year and throughout the week and throughout the month. And flow with that. And so the work that we are going to do with our PE teachers when we get together for our professional learning days is going to be exactly that, developing that syllabi so that way all the teachers can share it and then set the expectations and the scope and the sequence of what PE will look like throughout the year. And so that will be included in the syllabus. iPads for new students, that is one that is going to be provided through ETS. And so they will be sending out a message through Parent Square with time slots and when they will be distributing them. So if you haven't received the message yet, I anticipate it will be coming out within the next couple of days. All right, perfect. So we've reached the end. It's 11:44, and so we are reaching the end of our webinar. We will be doing another round of webinars this evening at 6:30, and please join us there if we were not able to answer every single one of your questions, or if you still have other items that pop up throughout the rest of the day. I once again want to thank you all for joining us, for your engagement. And do know that here at GV, you got a dream team. And so we are all here to support you. We all work together and we will be here to guide you. And so this evening, I'm gonna go ahead and double check on the GV welcome packet to kind of just guide you through that. And for anyone that wasn't able to join us today, we'll see how it recorded with YouTube, and we'll take the best of the two recordings, the one this morning and the one this afternoon. and then put that one into our webpage. So perhaps we'll put both. So with that said, I want to thank you all. Thank you for being part of our webinar, and we'll see you all this evening if you want to join us again. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.